Since we have the Bama legend himself with us today, it would only be fitting to start with the storylines in Tuscaloosa. Now, for the first time since 2006, Nick Saban will not be on the Alabama sidelines. In 201 games, he won 6 national championships and 9 SEC titles. Now, Kalen DeBoer comes over from Washington following a trip to the national title game. In his 2 seasons with UW, he won 25 games and went 12-2 against AP-ranked opponents. Now, Jalen Milroe's return should ease DeBoer's transition. He and Heisman winner Jaden Daniels were the only 2 SEC players with 20 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns last season. Coach DeBoer spoke this morning about his new job.
I should never be surprised at the things that great programs do and have and the culture that exists. But what really has been awesome to see, and again, this isn't necessarily a surprise, but it's been awesome just to see our guys be completely 100% focused on the main things. And their chemistry and their trust and belief is one thing, but I think and the accountability as well. But I think that the way they respect each other, you could see it in spring ball. And that's, again, a credit to Coach Saban and everyone that's coached in the program before, and the culture that existed even before I got here. But these guys, they know they need each other to reach the goals that we have as a program.
Coach DeBoer knows what it takes to win, as he has won nearly 90% of his games during his 9 seasons as a college head coach. He brings championship pedigree with him to Tuscaloosa. In addition to last season's runner-up finish, he won 3 national titles at his alma mater, Sioux Falls. Pete Thamel joining us. And Pete, you just got finished talking with Kalen DeBoer, and while he hasn't secured his first win in Tuscaloosa just yet, there's another scoreboard that college football fans have been keeping an eye on, which is recruiting. So how has he tackled that task?
Well, Victoria, we know Kalen DeBoer can win games. From NAIA to Washington, he's won everywhere he's gone. The biggest question hovering over DeBoer when he got to Alabama was, could he recruit at that high-end SEC level? So far, so good. He has the country's #2 class right now, including 15 ESPN top 300 recruits. That includes the #1 quarterback in the class of 2025, Keelan Russell, from down the road here in Duncanville. DeBoer told me the word intentionality stood out when he talked about the recruiting philosophy. They were intentional in keeping staff members from Coach Saban's staff, Robert Gillespie, Freddie Roach, and they also brought in 2 former head coaches, Kane Womack from South Alabama and Mo Linquist from Buffalo. That gives a head coach's attention to detail on the assistant level, and it's helped lift the whole operation. One last thing, Victoria, they've been very careful about what players they bring and who hosts on recruits. They said the Alabama players have been the best recruiters on the staff.
Ooh, we love when the players get involved, for sure. Pete, thank you so much. All right, let's bring in Greg McElroy and Coach Saban into this discussion. Coach, what kind of challenges do you see Kalen DeBoer facing in his first year at Bama?
I think the one thing Kalen's done a great job of is gotten the players to really buy into the things that he wants to do. But I think the biggest challenge is to get off to a good start, to develop some confidence so that that commitment to him continues to grow and develops as a team. Secondly, quarterback always needs to play well, and I think Jalen Milroe is very capable. And the third thing is they do have some issues on defense, which is mostly in the secondary with a lot of new people and young people. So how those things work out will be the challenges that he has early on in the season.
He's really done an amazing job, I think, endearing himself to the players. And as a player, I experienced a coaching change. Luckily enough for me, it was a really good coaching change, and I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But I do think that there's a certain amount of time that must kind of exist before you really are able to completely follow the guy that's in front of you. These players now have options. They could have entered the portal. They didn't. They opted to stick around. They've now gotten to know Kalen DeBoer. And I think he's done a good job of keeping things relatively familiar. He's won everywhere he's been, like Pete's referenced and like you referenced, Victoria. But he didn't come in and say, hey, out with the old, in with the new. He really kept a lot of the same off-season practices in place while implementing some of his own philosophies a little bit at a time. So I think that's been easier on the players, which should allow for a lot of comfort heading into year #1 with the new staff.
How does a coach navigate that noise and pressure, especially in the first year with a new team?
Well, you got to keep the main thing the main thing. And you got to focus on what you need to do as a player as well as a coach to keep everybody with their eye in the right place in terms of what your goals and aspirations are. And it's really about the players. You know, you're sitting in a locker room next to a guy, and your commitment to each other is what's going to help that team be successful. And that's the most important thing you can have on a team. So you can't be affected by external factors. You got to keep the main thing, which is technically doing the things you need to do to improve and grow as a team.
I love that, keeping the main thing. And a main thing that Coach DeBoer has is Jalen Milroe. Now the star QB returns to the Crimson Tide, and while he didn't lock down the starting role until week 4, he only used that as fuel to lead the Tide to 10 straight wins and an SEC title and Alabama's 8th CFP berth. Now he also found momentum as both a runner and a passer, combining for over 3,100 yards and 35 total touchdowns. So let's hear what he had to say earlier today.
For me, I'm not a finished product. I think for me, today I stopped getting better. Today I feel as though I need to retire. So with that, I can always seek information and try to be a sponge at the position, whether it's situation awareness, whether it's protection, whether it's coverages. There's a multitude of things that as a quarterback to play at a high level, you have to master that aspect. The great thing about last year, I can reflect on my film from last year and build upon that. And it's all about being around guys that's going to push me and uplift me and hold me to a standard of playing at a high level. And I have that with Coach DeBoer and Coach Sheridan that I'm so super excited about. And for us, we narrowed some things down that we wanted to improve on and build upon, and we're going to reflect on it as a group.
Now, Milroe showed us he could stretch the field in the passing game last season. He had a higher completion percentage on deep passes than DeBoer's former QB, Michael Penix Jr. Both QBs ranked top 3 in deep touchdown throws, despite Milroe having nearly half as many attempts. Pete, early on in his career, Milroe wasn't always seen as a strong quarterback. Now, over the last year, that narrative has significantly changed. You were talking to Kalen DeBoer earlier. What steps has Jalen been able to make to continue to establish himself as an elite QB?
Well, both Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeBoer were very clear. There's another huge step that Milroe can take forward this year. Kalen DeBoer told us that they really focused in on Milroe's footwork this spring, and they also focused on his pocket presence, and I think that's a really key thing. He was sacked 44 times last year. Some of those were certainly protection issues, but others were decision issues. So DeBoer said they've really walked through Milroe on his decision-making. DeBoer made an interesting point, Victoria. He said with the amount they're going to push the ball down the field in this system that they bring, it's really going to open up a lot of running lanes for Milroe. So that's going to make it incumbent on his decision-making of when to pull and run and when to hold the ball to try to throw it deep.
There is no doubt that that decision-making has continued to allow Jalen to have the last laugh and let his actions and accolades on the field do the talking. All right, we're going to bring Coach and Greg back into this conversation. Now, Coach, you played a major role in Jalen's ability to step up. Can you walk us through that evolution that has made Jalen the player he is today?
Well, I think pocket presence is the key word. And, you know, you can't lie to your tackles. They have to know where the launch point is. And, you know, with great athletes, sometimes want to escape and outrun people to the perimeter, all right, which kind of changed the launch point for the tackles, which makes their pass protection more difficult. But when you can get the guy to step up and have the right pocket presence, not only does it open up the whole field to attack the middle of the field and all the field, rather than restricting the field when you go sideways with the scramble, it makes you much more dangerous and effective run and pass. And that's the one thing that Jalen did in the second half of the year that made him so much more effective. And I really do believe, because Jalen's ability to throw the long ball, his athleticism, his arm talent, and his speed make him a very, very difficult guy to defend.
Difficult indeed. Now, Greg, where would you like to see Jalen grow from last year?
I think kind of what Coach just said. I mean, I thought he grew tremendously, and you could just see his confidence grow after the bye week. Became a little bit more decisive, a little bit more willing to, hey, if it's not there downfield, I'll take what I can get, either in the passing game or I'll tuck and run. No matter what you say, when you look at Jalen Milroe, he might be the most difficult guy on the field to bring down in the open field. So him being willing to just take what the defense gives him, Don't miss the layups, the occasional throws that he was sometimes inaccurate with. Sometimes it looked like he'd rush things a little bit too much. But that's all about getting more comfortable playing the position. And I think the sky's the limit with his potential. If he can just continue to improve on the intermediate and the underneath accuracy, he's got a chance to be as dynamic a quarterback as we'll see in all of college football this year.